Alright everybody, it's our Klaus here, and I'm real excited to try something a little different today. For those of you who follow the channel, you know that earlier this week I put out a video entitled American Psychosis, or America's Psychosis, something like that. And it examined the very controversial roots of modern day psychiatry, of course, in eugenics and the Nazi Party. Discussing that with everything going on as of late with Alex Jones and his whole mental health debacle in regards to the Sandy Hook incident. Of course, the video goes into many other fascinating topics, but one of the things that came up in that presentation was revolving around my looking at 2Pac's not only connections to the Natural Born Killers movie, but more interestingly, in a lot of ways, his final album cover during his lifetime for All Eyez on Me. Now, in that video, I discussed it was interesting that, of course, he's throwing up the W for the West Side, for those of you not familiar. And W is the 23rd letter of the alphabet. So 2019 now marks 23 years since both that album's release and the death of 2Pac. So as I was mulling over this, I kept finding more fascinating things. So let's just get right into discussing why I feel this is such a prophetic cover in so many ways. So take a look at this over here, of course, his fourth studio album. And what I want you to see is this single, Life Goes On, which was actually released on September 11th of 96, but that was 4 days after 2Pac was shot. And then you see another single released on September 15th, of course, I Ain't Mad at Ya. Now, as we well know at this point, 2Pac was pronounced dead on September 13th, so a single release 2 days before and 2 days after his death on September 13th. Well, why is that so interesting? Well, let's unpack that idea. So if we look at those respective singles, we see that they are tracks 9 and 13, just like the date that 2Pac was pronounced to be dead. Now, you look through this a little more here, and you notice that we can add 9 and 13 together, and we get 22, as in 2 days before and 2 days after. So really interesting here, we do have a nice 22 on his cover for the double disc, and then of course in his name. Now, all of this very, very compelling to me. Of course, a W is made of 2 V's, and I could break that down for you, which I will later on. But let's get back over here. And looking at this, of course, the West Side sign is made using 4 fingers, and I keep emphasizing that number, and you can see on the left side some of those references, but then notice as well on the right side of your screen I have written out the very significant ways in which the number 4 governs many aspects of our world. So I will scroll through so that you can feel free to pause and see all of these different connections. It is very fascinating, and all things that I have discussed previously. So now, the other big thing I want to tune into with that number 23 has to do with Aleister Crowley and his Book of Lies. So we have discussed this chapter pretty extensively because it is about the notion of sacrifice, and you can see reference throughout here the phrase "get out." Of course, we've really broken that movie down for you and how it connects to this idea of a second 9/11. Now, moving through all of this, let's connect it all to 2019 a little more. So 2Pac Shakur's initials are the 20th and 19th letters of the alphabet. Again, that 2019 when we put them together. If we were to take a look at his full stage name written out here, you do see that it shares the same values for 2019 as well as prophecy fulfilled. Now, you'll also notice here references to POTUS DJ Trump, of course, Donald John, and then you see Donald Trump Dumbo. Now, for those of you who have not seen my Elephant in the Room video, I highly recommend this. The World Economic Forum that David Blaine spoke at was on the 23rd day of the year. It was the 33rd day of the government shutdown, and of course I go into all of that. And you can see here my interest in Dumbo, New York, and how when we typed that into Google, we were getting these references to the 9/11 memorial. So again, Dumbo, remember the elephant itself is an anagram for the plane, and I've really given you some fascinating insight with that. So keep going here, and you can see breakdowns for 2Pac's name, of course, 2Pac Amaru, meaning shining serpent, and Shakur, thankful to God. So some real interesting dualistic notions there. But so let's get back to this cover for a second, because what was really interesting, and this came up in the previous video, is that his outlaw tattoo is actually covered so that the W is not visible. Of course, he's then making that W with his hand, and so we see some continuity there, but when I look at that, I see a clear trail of breadcrumbs. So with that W covered, though, we have the phrase "out LA." Now, we could look at this many ways. Of course, Pac's connections to LA, and then we have everything going on with Nipsey as of late. But let me get back. So notice that the coding for out LA is the same as false flag and one eye. So how interesting that W that is missing is pointing at one eye. So going back here, and again, for those of you whose eyes are currently stuck in the back of your head from rolling them at the numerology being used, please understand that does not detract from its significance. You cannot rely. I get a lot of, it's not taught in school, and that, of course they're not going to give you the fucking tools to understand how they are really coding the world around you. And so in any case, though, let me jump over here, because if we look at this article that was released from The Sun on April 4th, again, 44, not only connected, of course, to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., but do remember that was the same day that the Schutzstaffel was founded, and again, that Nazi organization with those two S's, the sun runes, and all of that information. But so if we took a look at this article over here, and these pictures are small, so I'm going to show you on this side. This is the one from the Sun article, but look at that. They're circling that fucking tattoo, and they're doing it on these other ones, and it's not talking anything like I'm talking here. It's, of course, trying to say that he's still alive, and it's because we see this tattoo. But the mainstream is trying to draw you to that. They want you to see this. It has to be understood. And of course, that article coming from The Sun, TS, just like 2Pac Shakur, a nice 2019. So again, you can see here this update at 8:11, all the ways that we could spin that. But come back here to the left side of your screen. I want you to see the coding for All Eyes on Me. And you'll notice here that we have references to the phrase "ride, Donnie, ride," as well as "window seat." Now, both of these interesting in that they tie in with these assassinations of major figures. So, "Ride, Donnie, ride," what we see on this mock-up from the Misfits EP titled Bullet, which of course famously had JFK being assassinated, and all of the things that I've talked at massive length with you regarding this, because again, they want this connections to be made. And then again, window seat just so happens to be Erykah Badu's video in which she is assassinated in the same place that Kennedy was, that whole event was staged. And so again, if you're asking me, no, JFK was not a good president, right? They knew that people would be smart and they needed somebody to rally people around. Okay, that's what his character was created for, but I don't want to sidebar into that too much. What I do want you to see here, though, is the phrase psychosis shares this same coding. Again, what Alex Jones blamed his quote-unquote conspiracy theories around regarding Sandy Hook. But you also notice references to government, salve coagula, which, for those of you, again, who are not familiar with this channel, appears on the arms of Baphomet. Now, there is a lot of misconception about this deity, and I do want you to understand that it is connected to these ideas, to the key of House of God, the Father of understanding, being baptized in wisdom, all of these profound notions. Now notice as well here that in Crowley's Book of Lies, chapter 33 is entitled Baphomet, and again, we've delved into all of this. But I want you to see here the last thing for this album coding is it says 45th, and of course I think of our current 45th president. Now let's go back to the cover for a second, because 2Pac is wearing rings on his 4th and 5th fingers respectively. So that gives us a nice 45, and we could most certainly connect that with ideas of Saturn. But let's come back here. You can see if we start to break down the pieces of his album title, we do have references not only to the city in which he was shot in, but also death hoax and fake death coding. Now, let's start rounding the bend here. There's 27 tracks on that album. If we take the initials for Natural Born Killers, NBK, it is 27. Of course, this is a very notorious death number connected not only to Club 27, but many other pieces as well. Now, in tying Pac into that film a little further, you can see that he did actually appear in a music video for I believe it's Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, but he appears as a sniper. Now, of course, this harkens us back to the Donald Trump Illuminati card, Enough is Enough, saying they have the snipers ready, could drop them at any time to have a nice day. So, nice one-eyed symbolism in there, you name it, okay? So let's go back. If you take a look at the coding for Natural Born Killers as it is written out for that video, you do see that simple a 207. Again, drop that 0. There's your 27. But references to a Trump presidency and the New World Order. So how very compelling is that? Now, one more time back to the cover here, you'll notice that he's holding his Death Row Records chain. Of course, he's covering up the word records. So we could take a look over here, and when we code out Death Row, we see references to Judgment and November. Now, November always sticks out to me, not only as the 11th month, and again, the chief magic number, the number of points on the Qliphoth, that is the inverted tree of life, meaning it is the tree of death, said to be the forces that drive us towards self-destruction, decay, all of that. But in any case, the root word for that month is novum, which is the Latin word of 9. So it's a very clever 9/11 homage that they've constructed in there. Now take a look at this phrase, I'm a natural born killer. Of course, this is branching into my last video. And interestingly, it's given from Mickey during his infamous prison interview after the Super Bowl. And one of the things I thought that really cinched this in was that 2Pac also has a very famous prison interview. Of course, he's a lot more optimistic than Mickey is, but nonetheless, we do have that component in there as well. So take a look at that coding, and that is a 20-letter phrase. I'm going to redirect you to Eli's tarot because he does such a wonderful job explaining these cards, and this really is one of the most complicated cards within the deck. So again, I'm going to leave you with all of these links, but check out here how in this coding you see the greatest hoax ever, references to 156, which shares coding for First Sunday, and we also see here NYC November Marathon. Now why I reiterate that is because that marathon does take place on the first Sunday, and I've got on the right side of your screen now the coding for that 156, of course connected to Fate's messenger, again Mickey from MBK. But again, you see all of these other big pieces, 666 written out, 33, so on. Now, as I also discussed in that video, that marathon is slated to take place on November 3rd of this year. And so if we added these numbers together, it does add up to 33. Now notice as well that the sponsor for this event is Tata Consultancy Services. Tata as in bye-bye. Now, when we round the bend here, you see the day that takes place on is the 44th Sunday of the year, and it's the last day of the 44th week of the year. And of course, looking at that simple value for that number, you see those two V's, just like the W is made of two V's, and we can connect that to 55. You'll notice as well here references to kill, magic, and oath. CWR came up in my wall video, and one of the abbreviations that we found official for that is Crusade for World Revival. So again, spin that how you will. But in looking at all these breakdowns here, you can see that November 3rd date, we can look at that as a 113, and do remember that that number is referenced in the All Eyes on Me coding. So, phenomenal stuff here. Now, what's really interesting is we've actually been talking about November 3rd for quite some time now, and connecting it to the Kathy Griffin photo where she's decapitated Don Trump. And again, David Blaine beginning his first U.S. tour. Do remember, David Blaine and Donald Trump are good buddies. And again, these ideas of resurrection, right? Trump was there and really the one who enabled Blaine's buried alive stunt to even take place, because he was the one who put forward the land on it. And then again, right, all of these ideas about Trump being shot and then resurrected. It's just really too compelling, and I'm trying to get this to load up so you can see these two bastards hanging out next to each other here. Again, that's an outstanding video. But what I really want you to tune into is that the New York City Marathon is slated as the most popular marathon in the world. And if we look at the coding for it, you do see President Donald J. Trump as well as Airborne Hologram Project. Now, this is another way of saying Project Bluebeam. Of course, you'll also notice here Psychological Operation 33 is the key, and you see we've got them in spades today. But notice as well this reference to worst shark attack ever, and I'm going to come back to that in just one moment. But so again, to connect this all over to what's been going on with Nipsey Hussle and his album, The Marathon, you do see, of course, that TM 20 and 13 is 33. The album released on 12/21, again 33. And if you just reel through that coding down below there for the marathon, that 123, interestingly, Blaine spoke at the World Economic Forum on January 23rd. You'll notice here these references to death sentence, as well as the number 88, which you can see right here is the same as Nipsey, as Trump, as all of these other major things I've discussed with you. Get Out, the New Age concept of fatalist, you name it. So in thinking about that, It Will Rife, that is a reference over here, if I've got it pulled up today, to this article from the Centennial in which they had Reduent Saturnia Regna up there, and of course Return to the Kingdom of Saturn. And the peculiarity of that, because this is talking about ratifying the U.S. Constitution and returning to the Saturnian age. Now, of course, in that old style there, that F is actually an S, and so we can see It Will Rise. And again, all of these notions of Trump coming back, of Tupac coming back, even after all of this time. Again, it's been discussed, to the very ends, in which his follow-up album after he died, Machiavelli, based around Machiavelli, the Prince, and him, of course, discussing the faking of his death. Now, let's finish this out here. You can see one last 33 connected there with the sacrifice of Nipsey. But notice as well that the time between his death and the New York Marathon is 218 days. So you can see the coding right there, drawing us into 9/11 part 2, as well as referencing a stock market crash in the book of Revelation. So if I pulled up for you on the right side of your screen, because you'll also see there 7 months, 4 days, and that simple value of 74. I'll try to pull up one of these further ones here, but you can see, of course, the English value for that, the 444, all of the connections to Jay-Z's album, what we've talked about with the story of OJ, again, in that Blaine video, but it really just goes on and on. Now, what I want you to see, TCS, this is the company that is going to be sponsoring this marathon, as you can see here, right? TCS, New York City Marathon. You look at their coding, right, and you got these references to, again, Tata, NYC, Fish, which is connected to the death card. All of it's in there. If we were to look at their logo, it's got a nice 77 that I discussed in the previous video. Again, here running through Nipsey's coding, these references to the 888, and these numbers 322, of course, Skull and Bones, the first Purge, Project Monarch stuff, it's all in there. And notice as well 13 and 18, so hold on to that, but that is the Death card and the Moon card, two of the tarot pieces that we've talked very extensively about. But so still looking at this marathon bit here, right? Tata Consultancy Services does have that coding, Freemasons of the Illuminati, in Revelation 13:18, just like we see in Nipsey's coding here. So this is what's fascinating. Of course, Revelation 13:18 talking about the beast out of the sea, and you do see down there referencing American Revolution and Super Bowl Sunday. Again, this is where you need to go watch my NBK video, because we do expand on this piece right here, the 666, the 216, all of that. But so now, rounding the corner into this last bit that I want to share with you today, shout out to Truth Warrior for tuning me into the fact that Russia's beast division of submarines are called Akula submarines, and Akula is the Russian word for shark, which I am certain that I am pronouncing wrong. But again, thinking about this New York City Marathon and the worst shark attack ever. So why is this such an important piece? And well, it's because these are nuclear subs, and they are very impressive pieces of machinery. Again, you can see their logo here, the connections to 42, 24, however you want to read that. But again, you can see it is quoted as being the Beast Division. And so I'll leave you this article, but do notice here when you look through that coding on the left side of your screen now, and this is the only one I included the Jewish value on, but it's because it's that 1109, and it does give us the written out November 9th. And of course you can see that as a hidden 9/11 as well. So all very interesting, but do notice that Eyez value for it, the 888, the 148 connections to Donald J. Trump, David Blaine White, the number 13-8, which you can see right down here at the finish line, right? What we're always working towards. And you see, of course, that that's the same as Donald Trump, his new slogan to keep America great. Harper Irvin, again, you got to watch my NBK video, and so much more, all right? All of that coming in, and do remember that 138 really sticks out to me because of its connection to this Bullet EP, right? We Are 138 is the backside to that track. So very compelling stuff, all right? And you see Project Bluebeam written out, references to Dumbo, 187, you name it. But so one other thing that I wanted to tune into here, if we combine those pieces from the cover regarding 2Pac's chain and tattoo and look at Death Row Out LA, it is the same as Make America Great Again, 23 written out, the numbers 107, which that is the simple value for Life Goes On, his single that was released on 9/11 of 96. Okay, you see it all. You see how it's lining up. All of this referencing on the right side of your screen to Bullet Catch 515, these apocalyptic pieces, it's all sitting right there waiting for you. All right, and this reference to right eye lost. What eye is Pac pointing at? Okay, that right eye. Again, this is Harper and Irvin here from that shot in NBK, and of course they got that 88, that 888. However we want to read that out. Okay, but so if we look at those two singles though, Life Goes On and I Ain't Mad at Ya, the ones released 2 days before and after, you do see referencing to New York City Marathon Route, Donald Trump's Sacrifice, and Goodbye Donald Trump. So there's a little more for you there. Again, that W, the 2 V's, the 55. You can see how that lines up with everything that we've been talking about. Again, Act 6, in which the bullet catch takes place. Oh my God, it's all there, you guys. It's all there. I tried to make this video as succinct as possible. I think we're at least under the 30-minute mark, and so that's definitely a start, because again, last video is around an hour and a half. But so referencing the New York City Marathon Route does lead me to believe that we got some really interesting stuff if we were to try to break this down. And you know, I'm not even going to try to do too much on this here. I mean, I could definitely say, oh yeah, I see these 3 6s lined up, I see this, the 7s, all that. I don't know though. All right. But so again, I wanted to put that on everybody's radar. Again, all of this, and try not to ramble on at the end here. But I always, as soon as I hit stop record, I'm just like, fuck, I forgot this one big piece that I wanted to say. But, I think that all ties in there really good. And I think it definitely gives us something to really consider moving forward here. So, again, check out not only the Natural Born Killers American Psychosis video, check out the David Blaine video, check out, any of the stuff that I got that interests you, because mostly I'm talking about shit that ain't nobody else got on their radar. So, with that being said, again, thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch and to try to understand this information. As always, it is greatly appreciated. And as always, please, please be well.